All right, let's talk about something we all see every single day online: digital marketing. It sounds kind of complicated, right? But it really doesn't have to be. We're going to break it all down for you right here in this simple guide. So, think about it. You go to Google, you type something in, and bam, a whole list of websites pops up in less than a second. How in the world did Google decide which ones to show you first? Well, that's not magic, my friends. That's marketing. And it's a huge piece of the puzzle we're going to solve together today. So here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with the big one. What even is digital marketing? Then we'll dive into how to get noticed on Google. After that, we'll explore how to connect with people, the power of online ads, and, this is super important, how to know if any of this is actually working. And to finish up, we'll talk about your very first step. Okay, first things first. Let's start with the absolute basics. At its heart, it's really this simple. Digital marketing is just telling people about your business online. That's it. Instead of a giant billboard on the highway, your message is showing up exactly where people are already spending all their time, on their phones and on their computers. Now, digital marketing has a few key parts that all need to work together. First, you've got to get people to find you in the first place. Then you need to actually talk to them, engage with them. You can also pay for ads to speed things up. And finally, you got to measure your success to see what's actually moving the needle. So, where do we start? Well, it all begins with getting found. Let's talk about the biggest player in the game, Google, and how your future customers can discover you in that massive sea of websites. Let's make this totally real for a second. Imagine you need a new pair of running shoes. You pull out your phone, you type new running shoes into Google. If I own a shoe shop, how do I make sure you find my store and not my competitor just down the street? Well, the answer is this thing called SEO. It stands for Search Engine Optimization. And really, it's all the stuff you do to your website to make it super easy for Google to find and understand. The best way to think about it, you're basically handing Google a perfect, crystal clear map that leads right to your website's front door. So what's the whole point of all this SEO work? Simple. You want to land on the first page of Google. I mean, be honest, how often do you click over to the second page of search results? Almost never, right? Yeah, me neither. Being on page one is pretty much everything. But, just getting found is only step one. The real magic? That happens when you start building actual relationships. And that brings us to the wonderful world of connecting with people through social media. Social media marketing is all about using platforms we're on every day, like Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, to have a real conversation with customers. It's your place to share news, answer their questions, and really just show the personality behind your business. Think about it. With social media, you can share cool photos of your products, you can announce a surprise sale, and you can talk directly to your customers. And over time, that's how you build a real community of people who actually trust you, which is something you just can't buy with old-school advertising. Okay, so building up your SEO and your social media following, that stuff takes time. It takes patience. But what if you need results, like way faster? Well, that's where online ads come into play. So let's say you're having a massive sale this weekend. How do you get the word out to hundreds, maybe even thousands of potential customers, and do it fast? The answer here is SEM, which stands for Search Engine Marketing. And the most important word to remember here is paying. With SEM, you pay money to have your website show up right at the very top of Google, even above the other search results. It's basically a shortcut to the front of the line. So here's the key difference, right? SEO doesn't cost you money, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. It can take months to see real results. SEM, on the other hand, you have to pay for it, but you can be at the top of Google almost instantly. It really comes down to a classic choice. Do you want to invest your time or your money? All right, so you're doing all this stuff, SEO, social media, maybe some ads, but how in the world do you know if it's actually working? Let's talk about how you check your work to see if your marketing is any good. This is probably the most important question for any business. You've put in your time, maybe your money, into all this marketing. So, did it work? Was it a good investment? How can you know for sure? The answer is in something called analytics. Now, that word might sound a little technical, but the idea is super simple. Analytics are just the numbers that show you what's happening on your website. And the most basic, most important number to look at is just
how many people are visiting your site. And this right here shows you the power of analytics. Just look, before you started your marketing, maybe you had about 100 people visiting your website every day. But after your marketing efforts kicked in, that number shot up to 300. See? The numbers don't lie. You can literally see your success right there.
We have covered a lot of ground here, all the main building blocks of digital marketing. Now let's bring it all home and do a quick review of everything we learned.
So let's just quickly recap the 4 big ideas from today. First, SEO is how people find you organically. Second, social media is where you talk to them and build that trust. Third, SEM is your fast-track option using paid ads. And finally, analytics is how you prove that it's all working. And really, that's it. If you can remember those 4 things, you've taken the biggest and most important first steps to understanding digital marketing. You've officially got the foundation down. So, we'll leave you with this question. You now know the basics of how this whole world works. The only thing left to decide is, where are you going to start? Which one of these skills are you excited to learn first?